Sup, y'all? It's me. It's your boy Asmongold, and last night I killed Mythic gul'dan. This was not only an accomplishment in itself, but it was also the culmination of, at that point, months of work, and if you watched my stream, you would definitely know this to be the case, but also a ton of fucking stress. So, because of all of that, and I think that a lot of people have probably had similar experiences themselves, maybe with a different outcome, I wanted to take this time to tell the tale, to say the story of Asmongold, Indestructible, and Nighthold Mythic. Now, we're going to start the story at the beginning of the expansion. At that point, I was an officer in my guild, and I had it dicked. It was so fucking good. I was an officer with tons of power and no responsibility. I didn't even get in voice chat. I would just show up, do whatever the hell I wanted, and then they would give me loot priority because I was one of the best people there. I had to do literally nothing, and everything would just go the way that I wanted it to. It was the perfect. It was great. Like, why would I ever leave this guild? People always ask me why I'd leave. Why would I how can you improve on that, right? So this happened basically all the way into Legion, going into Nighthold Mythic. And at the end of Nighthold Mythic, our raid leader at that point, Incarnate, what he said is that, I'm kind of tired with raid leading, and he had gotten, his job had changed, I don't remember why, and I think he got promoted, actually, and he wasn't really able to make the raid times, and he was staying up late, and he was having to get up early, and so it was kind of wearing on him, and also, he had been raid leading at that point for something like 3 or 4 years, and he really wanted to break. So we did our best to try to recruit another raid leader and try to promote other people up, but the truth is that we really never found anybody to fill that slot. So Nighthold Mythic was going decently well. We killed the first 3 bosses, big deal, I know, and then after that we went specifically over to Croesus. Now, Croesus was the first point where we could see that we started to have some fundamental problems with the guild. There were a lot of people in there that had just been in the guild forever, and they didn't even really want to raid anymore. They just logged on every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday because that's what they were used to doing. So they would show up, they wouldn't care, they wouldn't try, they didn't have the traits, they didn't even soak the little green things, and it was a complete shit show, and it took us a lot longer than it was supposed to. Now, after we killed Croesus, which happened, and that was whenever I first started taking over a little bit in terms of like doing the calls, because at the end I felt like the calls weren't really done correctly, and so I stepped in and I started doing the calls, and that was whenever Ryan Incarnate was starting to get late a little bit more often, and you could see that he was becoming a little bit more detached with what was happening. Now, at this point, we had, I believe, 5 different officers. We had myself, this girl, Mandy, as the healing officer. We had Nerf, we had Ryan, and we had another guy named Brazier. And we had also promoted up Trictagon. So we had 6 officers at that point. And Trictagon, I wouldn't really consider was really part of the initial core because at that point he had just been promoted up. So it was basically us 5. And then we go over to Botanist. And Botanist was probably the biggest shit show that you could possibly imagine. Like, everybody was fucking up. We had over 100 wipes on Botanist. And after Botanist, it basically destroyed our guild. Like, to be completely honest, it just completely destroyed the guild. It crushed people's morale. And what ended up happening is we lost Ryan, who was our raid leader. And Ryan was like the main person that kind of kept everybody together, and he was really kind of the personality of the guild. I was not even there. I wasn't even in voice chat. I was just that asshole that streams, that shows up every time and complains that he doesn't get loot. And everybody else kind of talked back and forth, but it was mostly him making all the calls. Losing him, in a lot of ways, was like losing the big identity of the guild at that point. Now, at that there, I was kind of stepping up to raid lead a little bit, but we still had, I think we had Nerf, who was there, who was also raid leading a little bit, and I believe before Ryan quit, Razier had also quit. So at this point, we were down to 4 officers. And again, I'm not counting Churchgown. Not that he didn't do anything, it's just that he had just been promoted up at that point. So we were down to 4 officers. And, or actually 3 now, because it'd be me, Nerf, and Mandy. And then I started to take over a little bit more of the raid leading, and after a while, we finally did kill Botanist. We move over and we kill Spellblade. Everything goes relatively well with Spellblade. And then we move over to Tichondrius, and what happens? Well, Mandy, our healing officer, also quits the guild because of a similar issue to Ryan. She had her work schedule change and wasn't really able to meet the times, and I feel like also she was kind of getting burnt out at the same time. So at this point, it was down to two people. It was down to Nerf and it was down to me. Nerf was the guild master and I was the de facto raid leader. Nerf would occasionally call things out, but it was pretty much on me to handle the raid. And I really was kind of stressed out about this because I was doing my stream, I was raiding during my stream, and everything was going fine. And whenever I have to raid lead during my stream or deal with the actual raid during my stream, I'm not really able to interact with chat as much, and it's not really as entertaining and as engaging as it could be. So I was really kind of stressed out about that, and also streaming while I'm raiding in general always, at least at the beginning, definitely made me feel kind of insecure. So anyway, lost Mandy, and then it was just me and Nerf. And then so we killed Tichondrius, and then we did our first night on Star Augur. And I remember I saw Nerf didn't log on for the night before, and I thought he had like, I think because he lived up north, and so he was like snowed in or something. And I was like, okay, well I hope he's gonna be on tomorrow. And then I wake up and I type in like our Skype officer chat. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna be here at the beginning of raid. I'm gonna get a pizza. I'm going to go to McDonald's. I'm going to start the stream. So just do it without me. Just don't worry about it, okay? And so I thought this was fine. It was good. And I log on just to make sure. And I log on. I said, am I good to be AFK for the beginning of the raid? And Trick says, well, did you check the forums? And I'm like, no, I didn't check the forums. And so I go on the forums. And Nerf made a post that he was going to quit the guild. And... oh, buddy boy. This is a lot of stress for me. Because, basically, Nerf was the only person in the guild that had been around at that point longer than I had. And it was kind of a big deal for me. And it was almost like a midlife crisis. It's like I have been in the guild for longer than anybody else had been in this guild. And in a way, I didn't like that. It's like whenever I now, after we've done all of this... whenever I tell an inside joke, I'm the only one that's inside in the guild. And I don't really know how to feel about that. It's definitely something that it definitely makes me question and wonder what really I'm all doing this for, and if it's time for me to quit. And not the game, don't worry, just raiding. I thought about quitting raiding a lot, because I just wasn't really ready for that level of responsibility. And also I felt like, my time had passed, my ship had sailed, the sun is setting, and that was pretty much everybody from back then is gone, and I was the last one left. And I guess it kind of hit me a little bit harder than it probably should have. But I sat down on my sofa mattress down there and I made a video, and I'm going to post this video on my second channel. And that night, I made the video, and I thought to myself, what am I really going to do going forward? I could just let things fall apart, because I was effectively like the only real officer left. Trictagon still wasn't really like quite used to being an officer at that point, I believe at least. And what do I really do? Do I let things fall apart? Do I let the guild just go to shit because there'd be nobody else to take the reins? Everybody would just leave and it would be gone. Or do I go all in, do everything that I can, and live up to everything that I've said in my videos and my guides and everything, and never stop going big dick? And I think that at the beginning of the video, you guys pretty much see what happened and where I decided to do. So I made that video, and I told myself, and I told the video, I said in the video, I will not post this up until I kill Mythic gul'dan. And I do look forward to sharing that with you guys. And I want to take you guys through everything that I did from that point moving to now in order to make everything smooth. And also to not only, I guess, like, not only stabilize our position as a guild, but make it stronger. So at this point, we had just killed Tichondrius, and we lost our guild leader, and we were working on Star Augur. I immediately put out officer applications, and I was doing everything myself for a couple of days. And I immediately put out officer applications, and I accepted basically anybody that applied. I said, okay, fine, you're going to come in, you're going to do extra work. If you want to do this, that's great. I made sure everybody was certain that they wanted to continue with the guild. I talked to a lot of the long-standing members, not longer than myself, but people who I had recruited personally maybe half a decade ago, which whenever I think about that is fucking insane. But that's where it is. Literally, like 5 or 6 or 4 years ago, I had recruited these people, and I told them, don't give up, don't stop, keep showing up, this will happen. And I reassured them. I recruited new officers, and things were relatively going fine until some of those officers obviously were not really ready for leadership responsibilities, and some of them had to step down, some of them left the guild, and some of them caused a lot of drama inadvertently, or maybe, I don't really know, but I'll get into it, caused problems. And this was something that I had to deal with a lot. And after we kind of I recreated the officer corps of people that I had recruited, and I had, read through their officer applications and everything, and I sat down with Trick and I said, listen, I'm going to need your help, and we're going to need to set this shit up. And we got all of that together, and we promoted up these people, and after a couple of days, I would say that we got a pretty respectable Star Augur kill, considering the amount of wipes that we put into the boss. So that was a big deal for the guild, because at that point, that was the first time that we really killed a new boss with not only having all of the old leadership gone, except for myself and Trick at that point, but also with the new leadership present. So moving on to Elisand. Elisand was Elisand's very, very hard fight for guilds that are not very good with mechanics because of the way that the rings work. So we had a lot of trouble with Elisand. A lot of people were very angry about it. And also, if it wasn't obvious already, every single time that we would have an officer leave the guild, we would also have another raider leave the guild, or maybe 2. Our kill shot for Mythic gul'dan, if I remember correctly, 4 people are in that kill shot that started the tier. And I'm not talking about Emerald Nightmare, I'm talking about Nighthold. So we had to replace literally over 75% of our raid. And by we, I mean basically me and Trictagon, and with also the help of the other people that we had recruited. So after that, we finally did kill Elisand. We had a lot of attrition with Elisand, and we lost one of our tanks a little bit after Elisand, actually. And then we also lost a number of other DPS because of some kind of personal problems that they had with one of the officers. And whenever we killed Elisand, I had to make the decision, basically, are we going to keep extending, and are we going to go straight for gul'dan? Are we going to just only kill gul'dan, focus only on him, and ignore all of the other bosses? Or are we going to take the safe route, and are we going to just re-clear a couple of times, and then maybe extend on gul'dan? And I figured, we've put all this work in, and we've done all of this stuff, and if we really want to salvage the guild, and if we really want to take it back to what it used to be, because we're only a 3-night raiding guild, so it's not like we have a ton of time to play, we have to go all in. And I knew at that point that if we didn't kill gul'dan fast enough, and other guilds passed us, too many guilds passed us, and we just didn't have it, we lost too many people during gul'dan progression, the guild was dead. And that was a chance that I was willing to take. And I told them, after we killed Elisand, you guys take all the screenshots you want, because you ain't coming back here until the gul'dan's dead. And people laughed, some people were mad, but everybody went up to the top, and we did the boss. So gul'dan was actually a pretty decent boss for our guild. We had some problems towards the end of progression in terms of very, very basic level mistakes that kept happening, like people getting knocked off, jumping off, standing in fire, etc. But for the most part, I would say that our guild did relatively well with gul'dan. Now, about halfway through gul'dan progression, I started getting a lot of tells from people that were upset about other people in the guild. And I knew that if I basically did anything with the current comp that we had, the guild would completely fall apart because we wouldn't have the people to replace them. Whenever you do a group for like a boss that you're going to be doing on like weeks after weeks of progression just on that boss, you can't afford really to lose anybody, because the people that aren't part of that team are probably going to leave, and the people that are, you've invested so much into them, you can't really lose too many of those people. So I was in a very, I was on the razor's edge. If I said anything wrong, anything different, anybody wasn't happy, and somebody left, it was over for the guild. We couldn't do any sort of progression. So I had to basically go through, and I told every single person exactly what they needed to hear. All I wanted to do was kill Mythic gul'dan at that point. I didn't care if I had to be lying, deceptive, misdirecting them. I didn't give a fuck. And the only thing I wanted to do was kill Mythic gul'dan, and then after we killed that, I'll deal with all the interpersonal bullshit. People can leave the guild. We'll replace them twice as easy as we got them in the first place. And it worked. It worked. It was a huge fucking gamble. A huge gamble, and it actually fucking worked. And I managed to keep basically everybody in the guild, except for a couple of people who unfortunately we did lose. But we were able to recover from them, and we actually killed the boss. And after that, I sat down and I talked with everybody. And after about, I'm not even kidding, like 10 hours of officer meetings, officer discussions, musical chairs with positions, and everything else in between, it looks like we're not going to lose too many people. So honestly, this tier has probably been the most testing tier of like myself as like a leader, and stepping into being a leadership position and having like the reins basically defaulted to me. And after all of it's over, I'm definitely glad that it happened. I've always made these videos about what does it really take to be a guild master? What does it take to be a good leader? How to deal with raids, how to be a raid leader, how to evaluate applicants. And all of these things basically are guild leadership, I guess, like skills and a mentality that you want to have. And I told myself, it's like, what good are all these videos? Why would people listen to you if you can't, when everything is down, when everything's against you, and everything's about to fall apart, if you can't pull it together yourself? And so I thought, because of all of that, I had to put everything I had into it, and I had to succeed. And so I wanted to share that story with you guys and everything that I did. And of course, in between that, I'm talking with people all night long, figuring out strategies for the bosses, figuring out people to figure out strategies for the bosses, and recruiting my ass off. Of course, I'm doing that too. And I think that's really, that's really, I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that it happened, really. You're only really tested whenever you're up against something that's very, very difficult. Like doing easy bosses all the time never really tests your real ability. And so I'm really glad that it happened. It's also like kind of an empty feeling, because while I've salvaged the guild and while I've prevented everything from falling apart, what did I really salvage? What did I really keep? I'm the oldest person in the guild, not chronologically in terms of my age, but in terms of my membership. I'm the oldest person in the guild. I've been part of it for longer than anybody else, and many people are just very new. The only thing that's really the same that what I have is the name under mine, and I still don't really know how to feel about that, or how to go forward and how to come to terms with that. But it's going to be a whole lot easier now that gul'dan's dead. A lot of people are probably like, oh yeah, we killed it last month or something like that. That's great. You guys, honestly, I was just going to be happy if the guild didn't fall apart. So the fact that we actually got a relatively good rank, I mean, for a 3-night raiding guild, and, we kept everything together, it's definitely exceeded my expectations. So a lot of you guys out there probably have problems with your guilds. Maybe this inspired you. Maybe you said, man, fuck, that's a lot of work. I ain't gonna do that. Either way, I hope that you guys enjoyed the story, because I definitely enjoyed telling it, and I also enjoyed doing it. So if you guys have had any experiences similar to this, I'd be curious to hear them. But until next time, that's pretty much all I got. So thanks for watching, and like, comment, and subscribe.